Hey, good morning, troops. It is Wednesday in July 2025. I have got a day planned where I'm going to do some activism at a local college. We set up the table with a bunch of pamphlets out there from PETA, from Mercy for Animal, pretty much all the organizations, including Creation Care Church, which will be on the table. Definitely check them out on YouTube. And Vegan Theology, I'll have some of their brochures out there. Great podcast if you don't know it. If you're a vegan activist, chances are if you're watching my channel, that's what you are. Unless you're just coming here to pick on me, then you really don't care about those. But if you're an activist, check those guys out too. They're great. Back to the subject, because I need to get back on the subject. I'm gonna go do that, but I got up an hour early. I don't know why. There was just something going outside, noise. It woke me up, so I figured I may as well do a commentary on one of the videos that are sent to me. And thank you all. I'm getting so many, videos sent to me, and this one was sent, and I watched it through once, which I really should do more often. I kind of do them just on the fly because I treat it like I was doing street outreach. I want to be able for you guys to hear me respond as if I was out in public. Let's say I'm on Fremont Street in Las Vegas or on the Strip or whatever, just doing what us activists do. I just want to be authentic to y'all. So it's probably not the best way to teach, but this is YouTube, so why not, right? I mean, if I came out to a class, I'd have everything more structured and much more in line, like do A, B, C, D. But even when I do my stage shows, I don't do it like that. My wife and I will be on stage and we'll have an hour show to do. And if you don't know it, a lot of performers will put a strip of duct tape on the front edge of the stage. The audience can't see it. And it'll just be little markers on where you're going in your show, which we have. So we would open up with doing the fire act, and then we would do a series of jokes, and then we would have the illusions or the magic tricks, is what you guys might call them, in an order. And my wife would always be, what do we do in between here and here? And I go, I don't know, just follow me, just go with it. And we built our entire career around that. And that's why every show was so unique and fresh. And what has this got to do with activism? Absolutely nothing. Okay, I'm going to get into this one and quit babbling. Back to the animal activist stuff that we're doing here. Good morning, Steve. Okay, I got this thing sent to me. It's called Real Truth Real Quick. And I liked it. I watched it and I liked it because in here he brings up so many of the same questions that us activists get hit over and over with again when it comes to religious stuff, the Jesus stuff. So I hope this will be a good one. Let's just hit play and I'll go step by step because I don't know. I'm 3 minutes into this and I'm babbling about magic tricks and stupid stuff. I don't know. Here we go.
Welcome to Real Truth Real Quick. My name is Rick Smith. I'm here with Todd Wagner.
What's up, Rick? Hello, friends.
All right. Now, Todd, listen, I know you like to eat. I've seen you eat. You like ice cream and you like burgers.
Yeah.
And so this is going to be a great question.
Burgers.
But does Genesis 1:29 mean that we...
Okay, I'm going to interrupt here right away. These two guys here, what they're doing is, remember, they're not doing it on the fly like I just talked about. I'm just kind of going with it. This guy here, first guy, the guy on the screen right now talking to, I think the other guy's name was Rick. This isn't the first time. They discussed these questions long in advance. Okay, they're not doing what I did in Vegas where it's just like, I got a general idea. I'm sure they scripted this out in advance because they don't want to get caught with their pants down looking stupid like I often do. So it feels like that, but that's okay. I'm not saying that's wrong. What I'm saying is I don't want you guys at home to think it's done in a way it isn't, but it is done like this for entertainment value. I mean, you guys are watching us. It has to be somewhat entertaining or else you're going to click the off button and go watch, some girl in a bikini. So they got to make this a little interesting. So I'm not criticizing them for that. The reason is that they're making jokes in advance because they already feel the discomfort that they're dealing with from the knowledge that they eat food products that are made from sin. I'm not saying you can't eat meat. I'm saying that if the meat you eat comes from bestiality, animal abuse, pollutes the earth, causes contributes, not causes, it's not the cause, but it's a contributor to world hunger. These are all things Christians should not be involved in. And they are, which is why they start off giggling with that, good old boy kind of attitude. You'll see it coming up. Watch.
We all have to be vegetarian.
Well, I hope not. You already told him I like burgers.
Okay.
And I
Spoiler alert.
I want to do what the Bible says. So let's just read Genesis.
I want him to do what the Bible says. And I think the Bible says to avoid products made from animal abuse, to avoid products made from bestiality, to avoid products that pollute the oceans, destroy the earth, that contribute to world hunger. So yeah, I want you to do what the Bible says, but he's going to grab some scriptures to say, nah.
Genesis 1:29. I do like these kind of real truth real quick, where we're talking about how to read the Bible. Okay, that's really why we're doing this. Not because we think the world's going to all of a sudden realize it should be vegetarian and it's not. But when you read your Bible, Rick, you always want to read it and ask yourself, so what? What's God?
I love that he says, ask yourself, so what? If you read my book, you know what? My people that help me with publicity are always saying, you need to hold up your book often. And I should have a copy of it here, and I don't. Whatever. So he's saying the so what. In my book, I have a section called the 5 W's, where it's not just what, but ask who, what, where, when, and why of every verse you read. If you do that, it kind of helps you skip around your prejudices. Not that you don't. Everybody's got a prejudice when they go into reading the Bible. I got one. My prejudice is mercy, compassion, and kindness. His prejudice is to justify eating products made from animal abuse. So he's going to see a verse differently than the way I see that same verse. So asking that, it doesn't guarantee that you won't look at it with a prejudice, but it kind of forces you to look at it from a different point of view. So I was really happy that he did the so what, but then later on, by the time we get through this video, he's going to just jettison all that. That breaks my heart, but whatever.
God teaching me there? Is there a command to obey, a sin to confess, a characteristic about God that I should know? Is there instruction there for me? We know every word of God is inspired, and we know it's profitable for teaching, for correction, or for reproof, for correction, for training in righteousness, so that we might be adequate and equipped, prepared for every good work.
Well, read that one to us, because that one out of context sure makes it sound like I got to go to.
That one out of context. I hope he doesn't take it out of context.
Snappy salad every day.
Right, and so the context of every verse.
They talked about a salad. Like, I'm going to say right away, he's saying if this verse in its context really means that we can't eat animals, then he's going to end up eating salad every day. Veganism is not about diet. Diet is one element of many elements of veganism. Veganism is an essential part of the Christian faith. Why? Because vegan says you're not going to hurt and abuse and torture animals if you don't have to. Not saying that you can't eat animals. I'm saying that in a time like today, when we've got an abundance of food from around the world, we should use that technology. We should use all the things that we have to avoid causing harm to the world. As I said before, to the polluting the oceans, polluting the air, contributing to world hunger. All these things are Christian things. Veganism is totally in line. So veganism isn't just a diet. These guys are going to treat it like it's just a diet. And a lot of the people you talk to when you're doing activism that are Christian, that's how they see veganism. They don't see it as an ethical stance. They see it as just a diet choice. And they don't think you should poo on them for that.
Verse is 66 books. Okay, in Genesis 1, God is revealing creation, revealing the story of his speaking this world into existence. And it says, then God said, behold, I have given you, talking to man and woman, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the surface of the earth, and every tree which has fruit yielding seed. It shall be food for you. Verse 30, to every beast of the earth and every bird of the sky, to everything that moves in the earth, which is life, I have given every green plant for food. And so
the beauty of that verse in Genesis chapter 1 is Moses is telling this to people. Okay, where's my screen here? All right. Moses, this is the beginning of time right here. Adam and Eve. Genesis chapter 1 that he's reading about. Moses is telling people here about what happened back here. Now, these people here are meat eaters. We're talking 2,500 year history. Okay, it's 2,500 years later. They're already eating animal products whenever they get the opportunity. It says so several times. Even in the book of Numbers, after they've been rescued from slavery, they said, we'd rather go back to slavery where at least we were getting meat. That's how addicted to meat these Israelites were. And God, of course, punished them and killed a lot of them for that. Whew, harsh, totally harsh. But think about it. So when Moses is telling these people here about the beginning here, that this was God's original intention, they're like, that was God's intention for us to eat plant. You see, they don't hear it the way we hear it. They're hearing it as a correction on the way that they were currently living. Let's get back to where's my little button?
So, and so I think, we always go back and we look and, we need to do a real truth real quick on dinosaurs because people have seen these images of dinosaurs and the big teeth. And were dinosaurs vegetarians? I mean, T-Rex, man, right? Jurassic Park, he ate meat. We know that, right? Well, probably not.
That's wonderful. See, he agrees. And that goes with Genesis chapter 1, verse 30. Because it says all the animals ate plants. We're talking lions and tigers, which totally sounds kooky crazy to my atheist audience. But us Christians, that's what we believe. And I'm so happy to hear this guy is actually agreeing with it. It's rare that I get that. So I'm like, yay. Thank you, Pastor. That was very nice of you.
I think it's a very strong argument in Genesis chapter 1 that we all were vegetarians. Okay, we do know that seasons were already instituted, which seems to imply a cycle of harvesting and planting and growing and death within the plant kingdom that God gave us. But we don't have death that shows up in our Bible until Genesis chapter 3. And then in Genesis chapter 3, death comes.
I think that's a good thing to talk about right now. He's saying, okay, remember, we're back over here, beginning Genesis chapter 1, then a short time later, we don't know exactly how many years from the time God created Adam and Eve to the time that the original sin is what the Christians you talk to are going to call it. Original sin is when Adam and Eve ate the apple. The apple, it could have been a fig. It could have been anything. The point was they rebelled against God. God gave them rules. They rebelled and said, God, we'll do things our way. And sin entered the world. That's a negative. That is a negative. And that's when death entered and animal eating entered. Why would we use sin as an opportunity to say, hey, it's okay to eat animals? Sin is a negative to a Christian, yet we want to enjoy things that come from sin. Not good theology there, I think. So back to the story.
It's on the earth. And we have evil continue to increase until God judges the earth through the universal flood. And at the end of the flood, as Noah and his sons and their wives get off the ark, we have this statement in Genesis chapter 9, verse 3, where God says, listen, every moving thing that is alive shall be food with you. I give it all to you. Even as I gave the green plant, I'm giving you everything that you should eat. The best answer to...
Oh my. All right. Genesis 9 chapter. Okay, so let's get back to this timeline thing. I'm going to do a video on this whole timeline. I did one before. I'm going to do one again. I probably should do it every few months because it's so important to many of these objections that you guys are about to hear from a Christian. It really helps you get it in line so you can answer them. Back here, Genesis chapter 1, vegan. Genesis chapter 3, sin enters the world. About 1,000 years later, not as far as Moses, he was about 2,500 years, but about here around 1,000-year mark. I could be off 100 years here or there. We're going by genealogies and basing on estimates of lifespans and things like that. None of these years are exactly perfect, but you get the idea. It's a huge chunk of years. Genesis 1, Garden of Eden, no sin, no death. The way God wanted everything to be, God's perfect blueprint on the earth. Genesis chapter 3, sin enters the world. Everything goes bad from there, and God's constantly trying to get it back to where it was. It's so bad by Genesis chapter 9 that not only people are eating and drinking in violent ways. How do you eat and drink in a violent way? You eat animals. It's not violent to eat a grape. It's not violent to take an orange off of a tree. It is violent to hang an animal upside down and stab it in the throat. See, they were eating and drinking and giving in marriage in violent ways prior to the flood. In Genesis chapter 9, after the flood, they get off the ark. He is saying that God gave us permission to eat animals. God gave us permission to eat a very specific kind of animals. We got nine chapters prior where every time God talks about animals, he talks about animals that fly, animals that swim, the beast of the earth, and the creeping things or the moving things. That word creeping and moving is interchangeable throughout all the first 9 chapters. Then when he says to Noah, you may now eat the creeping things, he doesn't say birds, he doesn't say cattle, he doesn't say beasts of the field, he doesn't say the things that swim, the things that fly there. He says the creeping things. Now, the creeping things in Hebrew is a very specific word, remes, R-E-M-E-S. Google it. Y'all got ChatGPT or something like that to check it up. Remes in Hebrew means worms, creeping things, things that swarm. We're talking like locusts and bugs. God never gave Noah permission to eat cows, chickens, and pigs. So the fact that he's a pastor, and maybe I shouldn't say fact, I think he's a pastor. I'm pretty sure he's a pastor. Does it say pastor under his name? No, it doesn't, does it? But I got the impression that he is, so I'm going to keep going as if he is. If I'm not, I apologize. But where was I? Oh yeah, the Genesis thing. He should know that in his position. I'm just a hippie on the internet, and I know this. If he's a pastor and he's teaching this, I don't want to say he's teaching a lie, because maybe he just doesn't really know. I'm thinking he just really doesn't know. He doesn't seem like a bad guy at all. He's just reteaching what he was taught. And he was taught somebody that had that prejudice, that didn't look into the who, what, where, when, and why of every verse. Like I just described the who, Moses, when they got out of Israel. The other who, the people, the Israelites that were receiving it, what their customs were, their meat-eating customs were at this time when they were hearing that God originally planned them to be vegan. See what I mean? That gets you in the entire context. He's not applying what he said he would do. So, but again, it's cut the guy some slack. He's just taught the same thing every other Christian has been taught. So let's get back to the story here.
Should we be vegetarians today? Really can be found in, well, let's look at Christ. He's our example in all things. And we know that Jesus
Yeah, I know where he's going.
had the Passover Seder. Part of the Passover Seder included lamb.
All right, Passover Seder, did it include lamb? It could, but there were a lot of Jews that were too poor to even afford lamb, so they were allowed substitutes. The idea was something with blood in it, so they replaced it with a cooked beef because it was red and looked bloody. This was all symbolism. The Jews did a lot of things for symbolism, and that's what this was about. There's no reason to assume that Jesus growing up had to eat a Passover lamb. Also, it's taught that Jesus was a Nazarene, which means these people also didn't do other things that were very common. They didn't keep slaves. It was rumored that they were vegan or vegetarian, at least at that time. So yeah, for him to say this again, totally off. And even when you look at the account in Luke, is it in Luke? When Jesus said, I want to eat it, but he goes, but I'm not going to eat anything. When he said, prepare the room, he didn't eat any of that stuff. And even, okay, I'm going to do it anyway. Even when he said, take this bread is my body. I mean, why didn't he say, take this dead, rotting carcass of a lamb that we cooked? It's my body. No, he said, take this bread. Bread and wine is all it's talked about at that Last Supper. All right? When a lot of people say, oh, it's Jesus said, go prepare the room. When it meant go prepare on the day of sacrifice, it meant go prepare the room. Clean all the breadcrumbs out of there, or the unleavened. There was so much more to preparation for Passover than just slaughter. That day of slaughter was just used as a reference to get our timing for that. All right, let's go back. I'm already, 20 minutes into this 5-minute thing? Jeepers, golly gee.
We know that Jesus caught and ate fish.
Where do you get that? Where is it? Okay, we got one place that implies Jesus may have eaten fish. That's in Luke after he died and is resurrected. He comes back, he appears in a locked room, and everybody's freaking out going, are you a ghost? And he's like, I'm not a ghost. Here, stick your hand in my side. They're like, no, you're a ghost. And he's like, look at me, it's me, I'm Jesus, your buddy, flesh and blood. And they're like, no, we don't believe. He's like, fine, I'm gonna go with your traditions. You don't think ghosts can eat? What do you got to eat? Give me something to eat. And they go, well, we got fish and we got honeycomb. And it says Jesus took it and ate. Did he take it, the fish? Did he take it, the honeycomb? Was there other food on the plate? All we know is Jesus ate at that time. It implies fish, but it could also imply not. But even if he did, he wasn't setting a formula for what we should eat today. He was working with what he had, which is what God always does. In a sin-filled world, remember Genesis chapter 3, from that point on, in a sin-filled world, you do a lot of bad things to get a greater good. All right, let's go back to this guy here.
And so, first of all, we know that we don't need to be vegetarians today. In Mark chapter 7, Jesus is talking about what really defiles a man. And in verse 19 specifically, it even says, by doing this, he declared all foods clean. And there, it wasn't.
Okay, wait a minute. I got it. Can I make that guy bigger? Let me see if I can. Does that make it? Yeah, okay. He's saying make all foods clean.
Just meat. What it was saying is, even some of the dietary laws that came across from the Old Testament, not only can you have meat, but you can wrap your.
Okie dokie. It's just getting worse for me here on this guy. Again, him being a pastor, he should know. In that report, that had nothing to do with meat. Jesus and his disciples were eating bread with unwashed hands. Now, it doesn't mean hands were dirty. I mean, everybody's hands were dirty in those days. But the thing was, the Jews had a specific ritual where they would pour water on their hands. I think it was 4 times. It was a ceremonial thing. And you would only do it when eating bread. You wouldn't do that in conjunction with eating meat. All right? It had nothing to do with meat. You would do this hand washing before you ate bread. And the Pharisees are criticizing Jesus, saying, hey, how come you're eating bread? No mention of meat. How come you're eating bread with unwashed hands? It's going to defile you. And Jesus is like, you guys are so busy worried about these little rules, you're missing the bigger picture, okay? It's not what goes into your mouth that defiles you. It's what comes out of your heart. It's like what do you feel inside? The cruelty, the evil, the bad things that come out, that's what defiles you. It has nothing to do with the washing of hands or that. That's what that whole verse is about, or that whole passage. It has nothing to do with meat. Now, when this pastor here gets into the part to where he says that all foods are clean, look, it's in parentheses. I'm going to try and pull it up again so you can see it. Can I? No, I'm not going to do it. When it's in parentheses, that's like a footnote. That's not in the original Greek manuscripts. The point is, it's in parentheses. It was added by a translator for clarification. Jesus never declared all foods clean. If he did, by the time we get to Acts chapter 10, why would Peter be saying, no, Lord, I never eat anything that's unclean or uncommon? See, it doesn't make sense. This guy really should know that. If he's a Bible teacher, he should know that. Come on. All right, back to our story.
Hot dog in bacon, okay? All things are going to be clean. We see that a little bit later, even in Acts.
When he says hot dog and bacon, if these Jews heard at that moment that all foods are clean, why don't we have a single report of them having pork chops? They just don't do it because they didn't understand it that way, and we shouldn't understand it that way.
Acts chapter 10 is, Peter has his.
Didn't I just bring up Acts chapter 10?
Vision when he's there in Jaffa about what's clean and what's not clean at Simon the tanner's house. So all kinds of evidence.
Let's get into Peter at Simon the tanner's house. I've done so many videos on this. It's just getting silly. And again, he's, at the beginning of this guy's program, this Real Truth Real Quick, he talked about context, yet he's still plucking verses out of context over and over again. And this one he is too. Acts chapter 10, Peter is traveling. He's tired. He goes up. I need a sip of coffee. Oh, I get to pick up my fun coffee mug. It's so obnoxious. So he falls asleep on the roof. God gives him a vision. Sheep comes down from heaven with all kinds of animals, and he says, rise, Peter, rise, Peter, kill and eat. And Peter's like, no, Lord, I never eat anything unclean. So this is from 5 to 10 years after that time where Jesus allegedly said, thus Jesus declared all foods clean, or whatever that verse was, okay, that this guy just talked about prior. So no, If Jesus did declare all foods clean, Peter would have said that. Peter would have known that. He was his main man. He was right there at the time. It doesn't make sense. But either way, the sheet comes down, does this 3 times. Peter's like, no, I'm not going to eat anything unclean 3 times. Okay, then 3 guys show up at the door and say, come visit Cornelius. Cornelius is a good dude, but he's not a Jew. Jews could not hang out with Gentiles. Cornelius was a Gentile. They couldn't hang out together. But these 3 guys said, come with us and visit him. When Peter was confused by it, says in the verses, read the whole chapter. You can't just read that one verse, which is like what this Pastor Rick dude is doing. Can't take that one verse out of its context. The entire context of that, you got to read all of Acts chapter 10, and I think part of 11 to get the full understanding, is that Peter said, I was confused by this thing, but when these 3 guys showed up and brought me to you, Cornelius, I knew that vision was God's way of telling me that all people are now clean. It had nothing to do with eating animals. None whatsoever. Again, if they did, they probably would have had a barbecue at that moment. Peter understood it as God's way of saying we are all equal in God's eyes. There is no more clean people. There's no more Jew or Gentile, Greek or slave. We're all equal. And he describes it that way to the rest of the apostles later on. I think that's in chapter 11, as the same thing. Never once does Peter say he understood that dream to mean access to eating all foods. Why is it we 2,000 and something years later think that we know better about what Peter understood that vision as? All right. Okay. Where's my button here? Here we go. Let's see what else these guys say.
Sense that we can certainly eat meat. What's going on, though, in Genesis chapter
We can't certainly eat meat.
1, verse 29 and 30, you could probably make a pretty strong argument, maybe from silence. We already know that God has given man dominion over the earth. And so
God gave man dominion. This is like where to get your protein. For us Christian vegans, this is the objection we get the most, is God gave us dominion. What we know about dominion, remember, okay, Genesis, sin, Moses rescued everybody from slavery. He's telling them all about what happened back here. And these people believed they didn't have dominion over us, that a bunch of different gods that existed had dominion over the earth. So when God says, I give you dominion, they're like, oh, okay, we're in charge now. We're not slaves. We're made in God's image and we have dominion. In other words, God's like, think of it, I see it like this. God's like, you know what? I'm not going to take care of the earth. You guys take care of it. It's yours. And you're supposed to do it in God's image. Man was made in God's image. What do we know about God's image in the first 26 or 27 verses prior to that? God's creating. He gives life. He creates life. He creates birds. He creates fish. He creates the beasts. He creates all this. He creates sun. He does nothing but beautiful creation. Somehow we in the 21st century think dominion means we can destroy all of that beautiful creation. No, you got dominion and you got God's image all in the same verse. You're supposed to use that dominion the way God used his dominion over the earth. Right, back to, let me click here. I'm learning how to do this clicky thing here pretty good. I'm proud of myself for an old man trying to do this.
you could maybe make a case that part of our dominion would be to harvest animals, but we don't know, though, that God had made animals sempiternal like us, meaning from the moment of creation, we were never to die. We know that all creation fell.
But we do know that God made animals and humans from the same dust of the earth. God breathed the same breath of life, I think the word is ruach, into humans that he breathed into animals. So we're made from the same thing. We have the same breath of life or soul force that humans and animals share. I don't know where he's going with this.
When we sinned against God, I would probably argue that we were all vegetarians prior to Genesis 9. Although maybe there were some folks, and after Genesis 3, when sin and death came in the world, that were eating and killing animals for food. I don't know if I even want to go so far as to say there was a little bit of good that came from sin. I don't believe that's the case. I think there was nothing good that came from sin. But what we do know is that it would be a sin to say that you shouldn't eat meat today. So
nothing good comes from sin, but he still says eating meat. Did he hear that? Or am I hearing something that's not there? He's saying he doesn't want to say nothing good came from sin, yet eating meat. Remember beginning, sin entered in chapter 3. We got to eat meat because of sin. And earlier he said eating meat is good. You can eat it. And he's also saying nothing good came from sin, but eating meat is good. And eating meat came from sin. I don't know where he's at. Okay.
Go get you a cheeseburger.
Go get you a cheeseburger. Hey, great stuff. Listen, if someone's out there and they want to make a lifestyle choice to be a vegetarian, hey, go at it, but not a biblical reason to be a vegetarian.
Right. You could.
Yeah, there's a biblical reason. Because eating food products, and I've said this, 5 times now in this video? Eating food products that are made from animal abuse is sin. Eating food products that are made from bestiality is sin. Eating food products that contribute to starvation in the world. Let me just do this. You take 9 calories of food and feed it to a cow, you get 1 calorie of food out. It takes 16 pounds of grain to make a meal fed to a cow to make 1 pound of steak to feed a couple people. How many starving people could we feed if we just took that 16 pounds of grain, bypassed the moo cow, and fed it to the starving people of the world? We grow enough food to end world hunger. Okay, veganism is not about diet, it's an ethical stance. That's why us vegans look at it like that. Why don't Christians? I don't get it.
Say that maybe Adam wasn't supposed to grill up a steak in Genesis 1. We're not living in Genesis 1. We're living today. We're also not living in the Old Testament under the dietary laws. It might be wise to eat the way that God commanded the Israelites to live, but it's not required. Our righteousness is won through Christ alone.
Awesome. Well,
I got to agree with them. It's not required. But showing mercy, showing compassion is.
We'll see you at Saltgrass, and you have a great week, and we'll see you next week on Real Truth Real Quick.
Okay, well, that was nice. Oh, wait, the wife's coming in. Hi, hon, I'm videotaping.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Does the air conditioning sound bother you when you tape?
I would turn it off if it did.
Oh, okay, cool.
Could you close the door?
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
She's always worried about me doing all the things. She used to do all the editing, and now I'm trying to teach myself to do it. So she's always checking in on me to make sure I don't, check the air conditioning for background sound, do this, do that. I'm just happy if I have a good hair day. All right, enough of this. I have got to get ready for my vegan outreach, where I am going to be talking to college students about whether or not eating animals is a sin. A lot of the stuff I just went over, I'm going to hear 10 times today. But I'm glad that I got sent this video. Thank you for sending me this link, because this pastor touched on a lot of subjects that vegan activists will hear from Christians, and hopefully I gave you enough information to go on it. Stay tuned, come back. I want to do a deeper dive on that timeline stuff, because I really think I end up referring to it so often when I do vegan outreach that I think my listeners out there, my subscribers, would be interested in learning. It's a lot, but you can see how I keep referring to it, and it will make sense when you're talking to a Christian meat eater. It'll make enough sense to them where they'll have a hard time arguing against it, rather than just shifting gears. So, all right, enough of that. I'm out of here. Let's end recording, and bye.